Let's look to see if your sticky notes are in the same place mine are. So this is the introduction. This is your body paragraph number 1. This is your body paragraph number 2, which makes sense sequentially. And the conclusion or ending of your essay is down here. And so I want to look at breaking those down and what is included in each one of those pieces. So when we look at introduction, the story of Cronus is a classic myth that shows the theme of a mother's love. So the introduction, I just made another copy of a blank piece over on this side. And what is included in that section? If we look back at the essay, all myths contain significant elements of mythology. It goes on, and you can read the specifics in here. But when we look back at this page, the body paragraph number 1, it describes the elements of mythology that are evident in this myth. And this myth is Cronus. But if we're going to be writing an analytical essay moving forward, you're not going to be analyzing Cronus, you're going to be analyzing a different myth. So what elements of mythology are evident in the myth? And that's a summary of what that whole paragraph is going to be about. And if we break that down even more, if we look at the opening sentence of body paragraph number 1, it explains why it's a myth. So if we look back over here, and we're looking at this first sentence, all myths contain significant elements of mythology. So does it explain why it's a myth? Well, it talks about the key explanation of it. And then we're going to move into the next section of that paragraph, which describes a key mythological element and provides evidence. So we're going to find something specific that's one of the key elements that we've talked about for the last week or so, and then an evidence from the text of Cronus, or when you're analyzing your myth, evidence from that text that supports that. And then you're going to find another key element and provide evidence. So you should have at least 2 in that first paragraph. So if we look back over here, we're going to be able to see those big pieces. One of the key elements here is that the key elements of mythology is that characters are often non-human, but they have human qualities and emotions. And then there's a specific example about Rhea here. And then also down below here, it says many myths contain a struggle for power. And then that gives a specific explanation on that too. And then when we look back at the concluding sentence, it doesn't say that we have a concluding sentence here, but if we look back in this text, it specifically says these elements of mythology help define this story as a classic myth. So that summarizes that entire paragraph. Now, when we move into body paragraph number 2, if we look at this section, we see that body paragraph number 2, the whole summary of that paragraph is it's describing the theme that's in that specific myth. So in this one, the theme of Cronus. And then this breaks it down of what should be included in that body paragraph. So the opening sentence of that second paragraph should describe the important theme in the specific myth. I should need to change that. So if we look over here, this first sentence, an important theme in the myth of Cronus is a mother's love for her children. So I'm going to change the color here because we're talking about theme. And this one is a mother's love for her children. So that was just an overview. So if we look back on this section, it describes the important theme that's in the specific, and I'm going to change this right now to say myth. Then the next section provides evidence of the theme that's in the myth. So specifically here was in Cronus. So there should be evidence and there's specific information. It gave a quote in here that talks about it. And so there's specific quotes. So that's evidence from the text that we worked on in the first unit. And there's one down here as well, another quote. So that was providing evidence of the theme that's in that specific myth. And then the closing sentence summarizes how the evidence supports the theme. So let's see if we can find if that evidence is supporting the theme here. So if we look back here, we can see that both these examples show the power of the mother's love for her children. So there is the specific evidence that supports the theme, because we're talking about those 2 pieces and then how that comes together to support the theme. Then if we look back, we can look at this concluding sentence, and I'm going to clear this out here. This classic myth shows how a mother's struggle to save her children became the origin of the gods and Greek culture. And so if I come back to this section, I can see that my closing sentence, it links the theme with the element of mythology. So it's pulling it all together and summarizing it all up in a nice little package. So it pulls the whole essay together and sums it up for them in one concluding sentence. And so that's what's going to build a strong essay. Those are the elements that are very important in building a mini essay.